The Sacramento Kings hitting the market in search of a point guard. Some possible trades coming up for them. We're going to dig into that. But first, the Knicks. The coaching search rolls on. And oh my God, has this been a mess? But they still may wind up with a very talented head coach. We're going to get into it. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, did the Knicks request permission to interview you for a head coaching job at this point? And how quickly did you decline?
Well, I'm surprised you asked me that because I was actually going to ask you about that. But the trick would have been that I wouldn't have declined. I would have taken that job, right?
You would take the job.
I can learn everything I need to know on the job, on the fly. Just give me a month. I got this.
Give me a really good assistant coach, and I will hand them the clipboard, and I will enjoy my front row seats and multi-million-dollar a year salary. So the word coming out of New York, the Knicks are now turning the two former head coaches, Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins, the Sacramento Kings former head coach. Mike Brown, he's coached a number of other teams as well. And Taylor Jenkins, who was the Memphis Grizzlies head coach until he was surprisingly let go just before the playoffs last year. This is probably the better path for the Knicks to go down because, Donnie, at this point, the Knicks have tried to interview, well, very famously Jason Kidd, but also Chris Finch, Ime Udoka, Quinn Snyder, a number of other head coaches, Billy Donovan, and they have literally been turned down for all of them. The incumbent teams for every single coach has slammed the door in the Knicks' faces. So now the Knicks are saying, okay, maybe it's best if we actually try to hire some coaches who aren't already hired by another team. I think, Donnie, this was a miscalculation by the Knicks. I think this was a misunderstanding on their part of how attractive their coaching job is. They thought at least one of these guys that's under contract already would fight to get out of their contract. And that has not happened, clearly, because all of the incumbent teams have just said, nope, not happening.
Yeah. So they're in a weird spot because I really do think that was Dolan. He just came down and was like, nope, I've been out of this too long. And here I'm going to exercise my right as owner and say, nope, we're getting this guy up out of here. And I don't think they were prepared for it. That's one of the things that we said, you've got to have a guy in mind. They clearly didn't have anybody in mind. They've just got a list of people they're trying to go after. Unfortunately, all of them are employed. And so that's obviously not working out for them. And they've turned into almost a meme at this point, but they've got a lot of decisions to make and they need to get somebody in there sooner than later. And I know they wouldn't care about it, but ultimately, if you're firing Thibs, and I was personally okay with it. I thought there was several basketball reasons why
you talked me into it. Yep.
I was okay with it, but if you're doing that, you better have a damn good guy lined up. And yeah, a guy like Mike Malone could be good, but he wasn't even close to your first option, right? I don't even know. So yeah, but half of those names, I wouldn't say I would want over Thibs anyway. They're good coaches, but it's pretty lateral to me. What's the choice?
I mean, if they're not going to make the mistakes that Tom Thibodeau made in terms of, playing his starters 51 minutes in a 48-minute game, which I don't even know how he's pulling that off, but he's done it, for years and years and years.
That may be the most important thing. Don't run our guys into the
ground. Don't run the guys into the ground. I thought some of his rotations, the imagination on the offensive end was not there. I'm not saying Tom Thibodeau was the best coach in the world or anything like that, but you're right. There should have been a clear plan. I was really expecting, okay, hey, if the Knicks are going to sign up to pay $30 million to Tom Thibodeau to not coach their team, that would mean that the next day we would hear the Knicks are hiring this guy, this other coach that they clearly had their eye on. And that has not been the case here. And I think they really thought that say Jason Kidd or whoever else was going to fight and throw a fit and say, I want out of my contract, to the point where the incumbent team would say, okay, look, if you really don't want to be here, we don't want you here. We'll let you out of your contract. Go sign with the Knicks. And they haven't done that because I don't know. The Knicks job is attractive. The East is wide open. They've got good players. They could very well make the finals next year. It's attractive in that sense, but there's no margin for error. If they don't make the finals next year, well, the dude who made the East finals lost his job this past year. So that has to be factored in all this. Now, of course, if the new coach coming in does a better job than Thibodeau, the rotations make more sense and all that, I'm sure the front office will be more understanding. But that said, it's a difficult job to walk into. It's a difficult job, and I think they underestimated just how desirable this job, or perhaps overestimated how desirable the job was really going to be for coaches out there that aren't technically on the market.
Yeah. Well, for those guys, unless they want to really go to such a high profile job, and basically the premise has already been set that a guy can take you as far as you've been in 20 years and still get fired. So what's the bar? Like, this guy coming in has like 1 year to bring you a championship, or if that's the case, I don't know why these guys would want that. And half those coaches are in solid situations, where there's not like a guy like Billy Donovan. He's got, I think, complete creative control over that team right now. Like, there's not like a superstar over there trying to muck it up or getting in a disagreement with him or pushing him out or any of that stuff. And if you've got a guy like Jason Kidd who's in a fun situation, he could potentially wind up being a long-term coach in Dallas for Cooper for the next handful of years here. Plus, who knows, right? So I don't know why you would take on that job personally. I don't think it's a great offer. I get it in terms of like the media and all that stuff, but I wouldn't want that, because that's a double-edged sword, right?
Oh, sure. And you're the one that's going to have to face the media every time. Leon Rose isn't going to talk to the media, so you're going to be the one front and center having to explain all the moves that are made and all that. So it's a challenging position. That said, look, there are coaches who will love to have this job. There's
somebody's
no
going to take that job and be
100. There's only 30 head coaching jobs. There's guys out there that'll take them. And I think it's interesting, though, that it's Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins. Look, I like both coaches. I think both guys. I think Mike Brown was integrating Keon Ellis earlier into the rotation away from still being the Sacramento Kings head coach. Taylor Jenkins, you can argue whether or not he should have been let go. Clearly, the Grizzlies were planning to go a different direction at the end of the season. These guys are good coaches. I'm surprised Michael Malone's name is not there, though. That is the surprise to me. Jenkins and Brown, I would have no problem with either one of those guys. They both have their own merit. I'm surprised Michael Malone's not there, though.
Maybe Malone's too much of a drill sergeant type guy. Maybe they don't want that coming off Thibs. I think Thibs is probably worse, a bit more at that, but maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I am surprised that Malone's name is not even just listed here.
Yeah.
And we heard about guys that they didn't try to go after before we heard about Malone, like Doc Rivers and stuff.
Yeah, that was the other thing, right? Is there's now a list of not only the guys that they went after, but the guys they decided not to go after. And so far, they've not gone after Doc Rivers, JJ Redick. There were a few others that they have not pursued as well, which was interesting. Like, I threw it out there: which teams, Donnie, would not turn the Knicks down? Like, if the Knicks contacted
Milwaukee,
whatever team and said, "Hey, we would like to talk to your coach about taking our job and leaving you," which teams would go, "Okay, here's his number"?
Yeah, Milwaukee.
Is that it? Is that the end of the list? It's just Milwaukee.
That may be it, seriously, because a lot of these teams like their guys. They're guys that they've got and have established with the team, and they're trying to build a culture around. A lot of teams are not trying to cycle coaches. I mean, against popular belief, when you look at a team like the Suns, how they've been cycling these guys every other year, most teams aren't trying to do that, so.
Yeah, and teams typically do not hire a coach planning on firing them, and yet coaches still get cycled through so often in the NBA. It's the nature of the beast. It's the way it goes. So we'll see who the Knicks ultimately look. There's enough good quality coaches out there. They will get a good coach. I'm not worried about that. But the process they've gone through has not looked great for New York.
Yeah, well, on the heels of getting rid of Thibs, that's yeah. And on one hand, we know tampering exists, but like, they should have probably been tampering harder.
if they really wanted a coach from another team, if they wanted to hit the free agent pool,
they should have got assurances from whoever they were going after if they wanted an employed coach. Seriously,
you're right.
If they're going to go after a free agent coach, then that's entirely different. But I don't know why they spent. The crazy thing about the Kid thing was that we heard about like 3 coaches before we heard about Kid. And then Shams was like, oh, they finally asked about it. And unsurprisingly, they were denied. So like, they already knew they were going to get approved. So I don't know what's going on here. It's just a complete mess. Absolutely. And it's weird because it screams old Knicks, but this hasn't been the Knicks over the last few years with Rose in charge. So it's been pretty messy.
They can still have a positive result here, but the process itself has not looked good. Hopefully the rest of the offseason, it goes a bit smoother for New York. But speaking of teams that need a smooth offseason, I didn't like a lot of the things that the Kings did during the season. I wasn't a big fan of the De'Aaron Fox trade. I didn't think it made a lot of sense for them. But Sacramento now recognizing that, hey, we probably need a point guard on this roster. They are targeting specific point guards. A couple of them they would need to trade for. Drew Holiday being one with the Boston Celtics, Marcus Smart, the Washington Wizards, and then looking at potentially even a free agent like Malcolm Brogdon. Now, there are some interesting options out there in free agency. Dennis Schroeder is out there on the market. Malcolm Brogdon is being mentioned here. There's a few guys that they could turn to. But, Donnie, the one thing that stands out to me with all of these guys, these are all win now, like 30-plus-year-old. In fact, all of these guys are over 30 veteran players. Is that where the Kings really are right now?
Stop, Trevor. Stop it. Just don't even bother. Just stop it. Because we know there's a disconnect, right?
Yeah.
There's the entire world's way that they perceive the Kings, and there's the way that the Kings perceive themselves. So that's kind of what's happening here. They think that they're a point guard away from being a competent team. Now, here's the thing. In all seriousness, I think that they do need a point guard. I think that it's hilarious that they need a point guard, given that they drafted two amazing point guards and got rid of both of them. One of which
imagine
is
if they
NBA
just kept
Finals.
Halliburton right now.
And Halliburton cried about getting traded. He wouldn't have left. He wanted to stay there. Anyway, they need a point guard. That's hilarious. It's karma. But in all seriousness, like, they need one now, but I think they're trying to put a guy next to Sabonis. You remember there was talk about Sabonis wanting to know the direction of this team, etc. And they're an interesting team because I think a few of these guys could be on the move out this season, could potentially be trades guys. Like, there were odds on trades for some of these guys, like DeRozan, Levine, and all that stuff.
Yeah, the rumor was a few weeks ago that they're going to move at least one of those three of Sabonis, Levine, DeRozan. So. At least one of them is going to be gone. I would imagine DeRozan would be the most likely.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Kings this roster is going to look different to start next year.
Exactly. And they could be an interesting team, but they're not going to be more than, mid 40s at the highest. But we've said several times that that's something they're okay with. They're okay with just being that treadmill team. They're like the one team that's okay with being a treadmill team.
God, in the West, over 40 wins as a treadmill team in the Western Conference.
Right.
Unbelievable. Right. Did you know Zach LaVine shot 45% from three? I was flabbergasted when I saw that.
He was so good last year.
He was so good last season. 45% from three. Like, maybe because he's got a player option next year. There's only 2 years remaining on the deal. Maybe he's got some trade value. But to me, Donnie, I just don't. I was high on the Kings coming into the season. I thought, okay, there's a way that you can make DeRozan work, particularly if he's playing the four a lot. But the pieces they've got right now, even if you get Marcus Smart, right, who's a good defensive guard, let's say you get him, even if you get Drew Holiday, who's another good defensive guard, but they're getting up there in years. I don't look at this team and say this team makes sense. There's way too much skill set overlap. Way too many of these guys derive their value from putting the ball in the basket and not doing anything else. To me, Donnie, this roster, the Kings don't want to do it, but this roster screams tear this thing down to me.
Yeah.
That's where they should be at. And I don't think they want to do it because they missed the playoffs for so long and they got their taste of the playoffs a couple of seasons ago, that they don't want to go back into rebuild mode. And I understand it, but they're letting emotion influence what needs to happen with this team. And what needs to happen is trade Sabonis, trade Levine if you can, trade DeRozan if you can, figure things out with Malik Monk. He might have some value, and then build this thing from the ground up around Keegan Murray and Devin Carter and whatever you can get draft capital wise, and off you go. That's what needs to happen for this team. They just don't want to rip off the Band-Aid. They
may need to trade Murray too. They've said they don't want to do that, but I mean, by the time this thing gets up and going again, he's already 25. Like,
they're going to have to pay him too. He's a restricted free agent.
He's going to need a new contract. Like, if they're doing a full rebuild, you're going to have to keep some guys, pay some guys, of course, to hit the floor. But like, they're going to have to maybe wind up moving him too. So there's some guys on this team they got to consider. They even lost the 13th pick in the draft. They had to give the pick to Atlanta this year. I don't know why they're trading draft picks away. Oh, brutal. But now I don't know what that deal was. We need to see it. Yeah, so that was the Kevin Huerter trade. And now there's rumors out there also that the Kings, they want to trade their way back into the draft. This is from Jake Fisher. They want to trade into the first round. They're looking to acquire a first-round pick and express confidence that they could get a pick as high as the early 20s. Now, look,
I think that's an admirable goal. But really, if you're going to trade back for draft capital, you're going to trade into the draft, and we can look at some of the teams in the early 20s. Maybe it's Utah. Maybe it's Atlanta. Utah's got multiple picks. Maybe it's Atlanta that they're trading with. They've got multiple picks. There's some teams here that would make sense. OKC would make a ton of sense to move that 24th pick, to get rid of that pick, because they've got more draft picks than they know what to do with. So better for them to kick the can down the road. So there's some trades that they can make to get into the draft. But if you're going to do that, go all in. Go all in on draft capital. Get what you can. Move some of these guys off your roster and move forward here. I don't know. Like, okay, put Marcus Smart on this roster. Then what happens? You still go nowhere. It doesn't make sense to me, Donnie. The Kings are upsetting me right now, Donnie. That's what's happening.
I mean, they've upset everyone for the past 20 years. So I don't know what else to say. Yeah, they should. I mean, if they're okay with where they're at, I mean, far be it from me, to tell them they're doing something wrong. But I think they're doing something wrong regardless. And in all seriousness, trying to get in the draft is probably the right decision.
Yeah.
It's a pivot towards what they should be doing. It's just one step in a long list of steps that they need to do.
Yep. And we'll see. Who knows? Now, if they can move off of a couple of these guys, turn them into some different pieces that fit a little better, you never know. Sometimes you sprinkle a little magic on things in the NBA trade season, and things can look very different. But right now, new GM Scott Perry, boy, he's got his work cut out for him to figure out a way to make this roster make sense. But topic number one, they've got to get some type of ball handler.
Yeah.
I just hope it's not like the veteran old guy ball handlers that they're looking at.
Being the GM of this team is like the hardest job in the league. It's seriously, you've got a lot of work to do. So
and you know what you need to do, but you can't do that.
Yeah,
that's so hard. That it's a tough spot to be in for.
Maybe they'll come around.
Welcome, Scott Perry. You're getting thrown into the deep end here. We'll see what he can do for the Sacramento Kings. But everybody, give us your thoughts in the comments down below. What should the Kings do? And who are the Knicks ultimately going to wind up with as their head coach? Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.